Welcome to Real Life Trading Beginner's Room here live on YouTube. And of course, here in the room. Good morning, everyone. I hope you all had a great weekend, had some fun, got some back trading in, fresh and ready to start this week off right. This thing going. Letting people get into the room here. Morning, Jason, Albert. Good morning. People are sleeping in. They're still getting in. I'm normally it's Johnny right now, but I'm filling in. Johnny did a marathon for charity yesterday. So he lives in Hawaii. We don't expect him to wake up at 2 a.m. after running a marathon. So good times, good times. All right. I think enough people are in the room. Let's go. Let's do this thing. Markets are gapping up. Strong close on Friday, up above a pivot, up above that resistance, and we're getting some follow through. So this is a bullish retest gap off of a lot of buying, right? We had a nice big lower move back down to the high of the week, and that's exactly where we bounced. That was that orange line there. This orange line is all-time highs. So I imagine we get to all-time highs by the end of December here. I think we'll slowly work our way up there. Once we get to all-time highs, I'm going to be very, very patient with that. But yeah, this is a very, very interesting movement. I mean, we have just the buy the dippers are out in full force. So at the moment, this is a great gap. I will be probably playing the gap. SPY will be on my list. I'm going to wait for it to retest. But there are other gaps out there. So if you have some tickers you would like me to look at, please feel free to throw them into the chat pane and let's get going. Jason says JBL. JBL. I like the retest gap and fill the gap from last week, but earnings is close and going to keep going. Earnings are the 16th, so just in a few days. This was a gap and go, another gap up. I don't know how much higher this thing's going to keep going. I mean, we are just in a few days, we are up 7%. When the normal move, I would say the average to range on this is probably 1 or 2% type on the moves, right? Maybe 3. So I think we're a little bit extended. This gap does look good. It could keep pushing long term. This is not the gap to be buying. I'd wait for some of these to be filled around 63. I think will be a pretty good buying spot. Yeah, that's gonna be a tough fade because you have so much support in the way too. If this gap would be easier to fade if it was up here, that's for sure a short. That's an easy short. It is very strong. It's just extended. So just be prepared for price action where it kind of comes down, it goes, and then boom, and then you get a big move lower, and then it reverses and goes higher, and then another big boom. You'll probably get those steep drop-offs today. So it's gonna be hard to really get a trend on this. It's possible that it runs really quick out the gate because this is not that big of a gap. But I'll probably stay. I think this is going to be a little bit tricky to trade for the beginner's room here. So it's tradable. It's doable. It should go bullish. There is a chance that it traps and goes bullish and then straight back down just because it's a little too extended. Stocks don't go up 1,000,000% normally. And if they do, they tend to come right back down. Look at every single big mover in 2020. You know, Peloton. Go out to a weekly chart. 2020 hits, rampage. Goes up a gajillion%. Where are we at? Right back down to the 2020 gap fill. Right back down to the support. I mean, everything that goes crazy berserk mode is going to come back down. So if a stock goes up 100%, expect it to come back down 100%. It's just a matter of time. I mean, unless crazy sentiment changes. But for the most part, a stock's not going to go up 100% unless it's pumped. Apple is a gap into all-time highs. So again, for beginners, remember my rule: if it's over 7%, take it off your list, don't trade it. If it's at all-time highs on a gap, take it off your list, don't trade it. So this would go on my rules of don't trade this gap today for beginners. But if you absolutely had to, it's gonna be tough, my friends. This is the hard part, right? Because it keeps going higher and keeps going higher and keeps going higher and just keeps, and you're like, I should just buy this dumb thing. At some point, it will do the S curve. So be aware. I just don't know when that's going to be. So I like to think of the bigger perspective. You notice I'm always on a daily chart when I'm day trading right now for just the prep, because I want to get an idea of what the daily candle is going to look like. If I can get a picture of what the daily candle is going to look like, then it's easier to go to a 5-minute chart and put a trade on, right? Because the 5 minutes always going to look good. It's always going to be like, yes, this is the greatest double bottom I've ever seen in my life. And then you go to a daily chart and you're like, we are so high on the RSI. It's just a matter of minutes before this thing starts to really pull back down to reality. Well, really say 168 and then gets going again. So this, to me, it is a 1% gap. It's gapping up decent for Apple. What has Apple done before? It's retested before pretty much on every one of these gap up. So I would expect it to do at least the same. If it's going to go higher, it's most likely going to retest. Gap ups after a massive move are normally the start of a reversal. So if you get something that's just going berserk mode and then you get a big gap up, that normally is the topping candle. That's normally when all the new traders are like, I'm finally in. And that's normally when everyone else down here is like, okay, I'm taking profits. And then you get lots and lots of volume and it finally starts to reverse back down some. So my whole point of all of this is it's going to be tough. I don't know if it's going to just continue to trend nicely like it has been, because it's getting to the point where it's probably going to trap the bulls and go lower. So if you want to look for a day trade, that's what I would do. I would look for a base to be formed, a nice bullish pop, and then look for something to be shorted out of that. Trapping the bulls. That's what I would pay attention to. And then try to get targets back into the gap fill somewhere in there. Cool. Good morning, my friends on YouTube. Bethune, what's up? Nicholas, Mike. If you've got tickers, again, throw them at me. This is Monday. Monday are usually the best days to day trade, in my opinion. You have sentiment change over the weekend. Gaps are normally out there. Today's usually a day we can catch some people trapped. We just got to find it. And it's a zero gap, completely 0%. It is working on a double bottom. It's not what we call in a bull trend. So I think it's going to be choppy. I don't really have a sentiment read on this either way. Tons of bull candles. I'm expecting short term for this thing to probably start to roll back down and see if it'll find some support off of EMAs and go higher from there. I have no idea. MU is a pretty decent gap. It's up 2%. Let's mark out a little bit of resistance. So my eyes immediately go to those 2 wicks there. So I'm going to mark out that resistance. And then we've got another one there. If we zoom out here, try to get an idea of, am I missing anything? That looks pretty consistent. So it's a pretty big gap. It's a retest gap. So no matter what, I'm going to give this at least 10 to 15 minutes to see what it does. Yeah. Let's see, Hog. Nicholas, let me know how would you trade Hog? And then we'll get to that in just a second. That way it gives you a chance to type it in before we get to it. What are your guys' thoughts on Hog? I'm just curious. There's no right or wrong. Don't worry about that. I just want to see kind of, if you guys had to trade that, how would you trade it? And then we'll go over that here in just a sec. So this one is a decent retest gap. It's got resistance right in front of it. but it is a decent retest gap that is clearing some resistance levels, and it's outside the gap from yesterday, but it's a retest. So again, same rules apply. Let it retest. Let the bulls take profits. The people that bought on Friday, let them get out for the weekend, take their quick money, and then let's see if there is a bounce coming in. AMD. AMD is just an inside candle, but it is down out of support. I would imagine AMD is going to try to get to the EMAs again, but we've got some resistance in front of it. So I think up into here is a probably pretty good target. We just did something like that. I feel like that's possible for AMD today, but it's just an inside candle. So I'm not too excited about that. There's no real new information since Friday. Beru's up 14%. It is a good gap over a pivot, but it's up 14%. So it automatically goes off my list. If I had to trade this thing, I'm into a big resistance. I got some more resistance up here. I think 740 is probably best case scenario. I don't think it gets there. We're into the EMA. We probably fall back down today, if I had to take a guess at that one. But 14% is, the move is probably already done in the gap. So pay attention to that. Make sure that the move hasn't already happened for the day. I think it has. Like if it opened here and we went all the way up to here, it'd be done in my eyes. Like it'd be over with. So look for a pullback, probably down to like 680, and see if it'll go bullish from there. But yeah, it's off my list for sure. All right. All right, let's take a quick look at Hog. Oops, I can type. There we go. All right. Lucian said, if I had to trade Hog, the only thing I would do is fade it off 42. I wouldn't trade it. All right. That's good analysis right there. Let's see what everyone else says. Entry 42.50. Stop at 40. Exit 44 is what Nicholas is saying. So going long. So entry 42.50. Stop at 40 and get out at 44. So that would be another 5%. So a 20% day. Let's see. Yeah, that's that. The only two people said that. GKD3 on YouTube said Hog 37.52. That's where you would trade it. Yeah. So remember look and see what Hog did before on gaps like this. This is a pretty similar gap, right? Back on this day right here. Let me zoom in. So on this day right here, we closed here and then we gapped up to here. So this was an 8% day. This day kind of trapped the bulls a little bit and then ran all the way back down and failed to support and then got bought up again. And this isn't even that big of a gap. This gap is massive. So I would be expecting, if you were sitting in this thing getting your butt kicked for a long time, I mean, since September, what would you do if you were in everyone else's shoes? Nicholas, if you bought this thing at 37, what would you do today? You're up 14%. I mean, Donna says sell, Christine says sell. Yeah, I'd be taking profits, right? At least some. I would take something off. Yeah, it's for sure. And so I imagine other people are thinking the exact same thing. Are there people right now that bought this thing up here? Yeah. Yeah, there are people that bought this thing all through here that have been waiting, right? This thing has been down. What do you think they're going to do when this thing finally gaps up? They're getting the frick out. So, I think it says you would sell. Yeah. I think this thing's heading lower. This is not what we call a bullish stock by any means. If this was in a better trend, then I think there'd be more people excited to hold this and to get in. I feel like we're at a big resistance. This resistance is massive. Look how long this has been a resistance. I mean, all the way back in 2020, this has been a resistance. This is exactly where we're at. Gapping up. Yes, it's clearing lots of resistance. There's a ton of bears trapped on this thing. And there is the chance. Now, my friends, there's always a chance this thing goes up 40% today. Totally. The odds of that happening are very small because of the emotions behind it. How are people feeling? How are people feeling that bought over here and then it pulled back and they're like, well, I'll just ride this thing out? They're getting the heck out. How are people feeling over here that got screwed and trapped? They're getting out on this gap. And how are people feeling that bought down here? They're taking profit. So to the minimum, I think this thing at least pulls back before it goes higher. So that's what I would look to play, is some sort of fade on this one. So the fade means it's gapping up. We're going to try to go bearish on it. That's what I would play. I would look for, what I want is some bulls to come in the first like 5 minutes. I want bulls to move this thing a little bit higher, and I'm looking to short. I want those bulls immediately trapped, and I'm going to ride this thing back down. If it sinks right away, I'm probably not going to be super aggressive with it, but I would love for some bulls to step in. I would love for some new traders to be like, this thing is going to the moon, baby. Let's go. It's gapping up 15%. It's going to go another 15% because the odds of that happening, it's like buying a lotto ticket. It's just very small. So for me, I'm going to try to catch all those bulls, because what they're going to do is they don't know how to manage their risk. So they're going to put way too much size on here because their eyes get big, right? They see this gap right here and their eyes widen, and then their mouth goes, whoo, and their tongue sticks out, and they just get all kinds of blood. I mean, they just go nuts, right? Like my artist skills are on point today, I must say. New traders see this gap and they go, boom, I'm going to be rich. Let's go. It's time to make some money. And professional traders go, I'm going to take all their money. So when they buy it and it starts to reverse, they sell it, and I'm the one shorting this stuff. I'm the one taking their money, and let's ride this thing back down, and then down into about 40. I agree with you. 40 is going to be the spot where we either bounce if it's really strong or it continues to die. So that's my plans on hog. I'm going to look for a short. I'm not going long on this thing. We'll see how it plays out. These markets are freaking nuts, though. I've got to say that. I've never in my life seen so many things go up 70% in a day. So sure, it's possible, but it's over 100 trades really going to struggle to even make money off of 100 trades doing trades like this. Going long on a gap that's over 7%. It's gonna be tough. So, and again, us as traders, we're not thinking about one trade. If you're trying, here's another little tip. If you're trying to make a lot of money quickly, if you're trying to make a lot of money in one trade, you will be broke. You will blow up your account. It's just a matter of time. Going to happen. Write it in the cards. Successful traders are the ones that have the mindset of, I will control my risk and I will make a lot of money over a long period of time. But I'm going to just consistently make $200 on every win, and I'm going to do that consistently for 5 years, and I'll be a millionaire. That doesn't sound like a ton of fun. Everyone that's thinking, I'm going to make 100 grand off of a $10,000 account, and I'm going to do it in a week, your account's gone. It's gone. It's over with. Just go ahead and donate it, because it's gone. So it's all about having the right perspective, the right mindset, and realize that the market is designed to take the money of people that are trying to make it quick. If you go on YouTube and see someone make $100,000, that's because they probably have $5 million in their bank account. Like, let's be real. They can go on there and post that they've just made, 100 grand, which they probably did. But people see that and go, oh man, well, I got 5 grand. I want to make if I would have just done that trade with him, he only put 10 grand on that trade. Well, yeah, but his account can support him losing 10 grand, right? It's all about that perspective and learning how to manage risk and not chase. Sorry, I pressed a button somewhere. Not chase that golden nugget. Realize that the markets are there for small, consistent wins. And if you have a big account, then yeah, your small wins are going to be very large, right? Because 20 grand is very small in a $1 million account, right? Just like $100 win is very small in a $30,000 account. But that's the way you go. Small wins repeated over and over again. All right, let's keep going to the gaps. Thoughts on plug. Bears. Let me make sure I'm on a daily chart because I hit buttons and messed everything up. Plug has been very beat up. We're into a support right now, and we're gapping back down again. I don't know how excited I'd be to go super bearish on this. I mean, your next support is down around 32.30, and then another one off to 200 here on a daily, which is 31.50-ish, 31.60. So it's got room to go lower if it wants to, but it's already pretty beat up. I feel like this might need to retest up here before it goes lower again. We'll see. It wouldn't shock me if it does go lower, but my initial thoughts are it's a couple really big bear days and it needs to retest the break of this bull candle. So be careful of a trap down here if it breaking the low of the day and then reversing. Markets are all about the traps. If you can stick around the traps, that's a great way to make money. Cool. So that's my thoughts on plug. Let's see. Nicholas, they could pump it out of there for sure. I feel like there's more people that are going to be trying to get out of that on hog. If you think about it, bears that know what they're doing, they already saw the break of this S curve right here. So you have the S curve, S curve, S curve. So a break above that and the bull moves over. I feel like the long-term bears were already screwed on this gap right there. So they already got out back in November, or they went ahead and lowered their stop, but they definitely started taking some profits down here. I mean, honestly, when you get this kind of volume, I know that's earnings as well, but even the volume after it, that's telling me that a lot of these people are starting to take some profits on this gap, right? So how many people are actually still stuck in this? There are people stuck. There are shorts waking up going, oh my gosh, I'm screwed. Hint, I don't ever short long-term with shares. I always do it with puts. Puts have a max loss. Shares do not. If this thing gapped up 400%, which is possible, rare, but it's possible, you're going to get crushed. Your broker's going to call you and say, hey, you owe me $70,000, even though you only have 20 grand in your bank account, in your trading account. That's what happens when you short. So I short all the time, but I just don't short holding overnight. I always do it with puts. So are there people trapped on this? Yes. I feel like there are more people. Whoa, what is going on? I feel like there's more people buying down here that's going to be profitable and taking stuff, and bulls stuck in here that have been waiting to get out on a big move higher. So, all right. Back to some more. Let's go. AV. This is gapping outside the range. It's not too big. It's a decent gap. So it is showing some strength, but overall, again, I'm living on a daily chart. If you're on a 5-minute chart, you would see this gap and be like, ooh, this is nice, right? This is not too bad. First off, volume's a little bit low for me to trade, so it's already coming off my list. And because the volume is so light on the pre-market, this thing's probably going to look really good and then gap all the way down to here right before open. It did the exact same thing on Friday. Looked really good and then opened here. So they tend to do that. You want to see a lot of candles pre-market. You don't want to see dashes. If you look for that, be like, I don't really trust that gap. But anyways, the 5 minutes going to look really good. Like, man, this is a strong gap up above resistance. First off, it's probably not going to open up there. But go to a daily chart and you realize this is not bullish. So we're going against the trend on this gap. It's a retest gap. Best case scenario is probably 68.50, 69, somewhere in there. And I feel like it'll go to that, and then we're probably rolling back down. So we might be just bull trapping and going lower again. This right here, that big bear candle is just death. I mean, that was your sign to say, it's not looking great, but it does need to retest. Like if I go out to a weekly chart, I don't know if we're going to get up to 80, but 76 on a weekly chart is pretty much going to be it for me. Yeah, that's right here. So 72 to 76, somewhere where I think it's going to get to. So thoughts on Microsoft. Enzo, welcome to the channel. Just in time. I'm just about to boot everyone off on YouTube. If you didn't come trade with us, join RLT. We do this all day. Microsoft, massive move on Friday. A no real gapper today. Microsoft might get up above the high today, but if it does, I'm looking for a short. This needs to come back down. Because it doesn't actually have a gap, makes me feel like we're going to just get a lot of chop, and it'll probably be an inside candle. So I don't think it's going to get above the high of Friday, and I don't think it's going to get below the low of Friday. We do have a massive unfilled gap down here too. My friends, I think everything's going to go to all-time highs. And then to start the year out, I feel like we're going to be getting a pullback. Just that's my thought. So I'm kind of going to all cash. I'm going to be out of mostly everything except for some long-term stuff. Be out of mostly everything for the start of the year and just see what happens. Let's see if there's any other gaps. I think that is most of them. So one gap that I do like that I found already is GoPro. So GoPro's got the volume that I need. It's not too big of a gap. It's under 7%, but it's a gap and go. So there's bears on Friday. Bear day that's gapping up is showing a lot of strength, and we're clearing that resistance. Not only that, but we've got some room to go, right? Our next resistance is all the way up here at 1130. And then realistically, I think GoPro is probably going to retest back up to 1170. So there you go. You're going to keep an eye on that one. For me, I'm going to be looking for a bear move out the gate that I can be buying up above. That's how I play all my gap and goes. Gap and goes meaning, you can look this up on YouTube on Real Life Trading. It'll show you all kinds of videos on how to trade gaps. Gap and go meaning the previous day was bearish. So the bears were in control. The next day we're gapping up above it. That's a gap and go. Retest gap is when we're bullish, have a bull day, and the next day we gap up. So this is a retest gap right here. This is a gap and go. They're both fine. They're just different ways of playing them. Okay. So this is probably my favorite gap of the day on GoPro. MU is another good retest gap that I'm looking at. And then hog for a fade. Those are kind of my three right here. I'm going to be looking for the bulls to start going bullish on this thing, and I'm going to keep an eye out for some weakness to come in for me to trap them in short. If it doesn't happen and it just keeps running, that's fine. I'm not going long on it. It's too extended. So I'm going to look for people to get trapped on this and commit bullish, and then I'm going to look to short them and break down. All right. We've got net. Let me jump in real quick. Net is at a very strong support. It's very beat up. I'll probably be looking bullish on this one just because of how beat up it is, but it's not looking amazing long term. Day trade wise, look for a trap below Friday. Wait for it to get below the day if it's not already. Get below it and then look for a bull trade. That's how I would play that one. PFE is not a bad gap. Pfizer is not a bad gap at all. I'll put Pfizer on the list. So to retest gap, I'm going to give it some time to retest. Give it some time for these bulls on Friday to take their money over their weekend. And I'm going to look to take some profits. Got a support there. Profits there, and best case scenario today is probably 54.50. So 53.86 is where I'm going to be taking profits, and I'm going to see if I can't ride this thing up a little bit higher. A Square. Square is gapping back down after a couple bear days. it's definitely in a bear trend right here, right? Like this motion right there is a bear trend. Gapping down, it could go a little bit lower, but you're pretty low on the RSI. I don't think we're going to go too much lower. All right, my friends on YouTube, thanks for hanging out. Come trade with us if you'd like. We'll be here same time, same place next, I guess,